The time is now 6 p.m. Our regular city council meeting for May 26, 2020 is now in session. Councilmember Scagliola will lead us with the opening prayer and the pledges of allegiance to the flags of the United States and the state of Texas.
Dear Lord and Heavenly Father, we ask your blessing on those who gather in your name. And reflecting on Memorial Day, we ask for your continued blessing on those who paid the ultimate sacrifice to establish, protect, or defend our freedom, security, and liberties. Lord, as we conduct the business of the city, grant us the clarity of mind and strength of conviction needed to build a stronger community and a brighter future. In gratitude to our fallen heroes, inspired by your holy word. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Councilmember. We'll proceed with city events and announcements. Announcements of upcoming city events. There is none. Announcements and recognitions by our city manager, Dr. Brown. Okay. Announcements and recognitions by the mayor. I have none, so we'll continue with the hearing of residents. At this time is set aside for any person who wishes to address the city council. Each person is limited to 3 minutes, and we ask before addressing the council for the record, please state your name and address. No one signed up. Ms. Dennis, is there any hearing the residents that was submitted in writing?
No, sir, not at this time.
Oh, okay, then we'll proceed. Consent agenda items. Consent agenda items are considered self-explanatory and information packets are provided to council and available for public viewing. These items require no separate discussion unless requested by council. Item number 1, the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on May 12, 2020. Item number 2, resolution number 20R53, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, approving a request for a Schertz Main Street Local Flavor Economic Development Grant for 405 Main Street in the City of Schertz, Texas, and related matters in connection therewith. Item number 3, resolution number 20R52, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing an agreement with the developer of Homestead Subdivisions Project for reimbursement of costs associated with easement acquisitions necessary for public improvements. And item number 4, resolution number 20R54, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, adopting a purchasing policy and other matters in connection therewith. Council, do any of these need to be removed for separate action? And is there a motion to approve a consent agenda items 1 through 4?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilmember Dalla, second by Councilmember Scagliola. Council, any comments? If not, let's call for the vote.
Aye.
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 We have 6 ayes, no objection, motion passes. We'll continue with discussion and action items. Resolution number 20R49, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing EMS charity care adjustments and other matters in connection therewith. Mr. Mammoth, you have the floor.
Yeah, Mayor, Council. As you remember last year, Council approved our Schertz EMS charity care policy. 2 big goals for that policy. One is to help our citizens who can't afford an ambulance, a ride, they don't have insurance. And then the bigger goal for us, we've been participating with TASP, which is a program through the state for reimbursements for the folks who don't have insurance and those who have Medicaid. It's been pretty successful. To date, we've been reimbursed almost $1 million. That program did shift away from the uninsured and Medicaid, and it's only doing charity care now. So we are asking for approval, 119 accounts, 143,539. and I'm available for any questions to chat.
Okay, thank you. Council, floor is open for discussion. No discussion. Yes, Councilmember Scott.
Yeah, I hate showing my ignorance. How is it funded?
It's through the state and federal government.
Okay.
So it's through the 1115 waiver. It's money brought down from the federal government, given to the state, and then the state reimburses EMS providers in the state of Texas.
That's
So they get a portion as well, but then we get a portion too.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Council, any other questions? Okay. Is there a motion to approve resolution number 20R49?
So moved. I second.
Okay. Motion's been made by Councilmember Haywood, second by Councilmember Scott. Council, any other comments? If not, let's call for the vote.
Aye.
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 We have 6 ayes, no objection, motion passes. We'll continue with item number 6, resolution number 20R51. A resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract agreement with Lou John Construction Company Incorporated for public safety building, restrooms, renovation projects, and other matters in connection therewith. Mr. Buckingham, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City Management. This is a resolution to, let's see if I can get it up here. Here we go. For the renovation of the emergency services restrooms, we're going to remodel them. And let's see here how do I get. Here we go. Okay, so our goal is to refinish the 6 restrooms for emergency services. That's Police Station 1, EMS Station 1, and Fire Station 1. The showers, we have a number of showers that are currently leaking into the building that are not being used right now. So we're going to go in there, pull out the showers, do waterproofing to current codes and standards for the showers, and get them in good, serviceable working order. The restrooms are in a general state of disrepair. We have floor tile that is cracking, like before it actually pops up, it starts kind of rolling around under your feet. And we're going to make the restrooms more serviceable, and we're replacing some toilet partitions as well. It goes to, this is a list of some of the stuff we do. Repaint, of course. We're going to replace the LED lighting, replace the lighting with LED lighting, and using our in-house staff to do it, our electrician that we just got brought on. The cost currently is $224,000 for it. Here's some pictures. This one is, of course, coming apart right here, and this is unserviceable and hadn't been used. Here's some barn hinges, I guess, on the toilet partition, holding the door up to give you privacy. OUS stands for out of service. This one's out of service because it's leaking into the kitchen area. I think that's at Fire Station. Here we go. These right here, this floor right here is cracking up. You can't really see it because it hasn't actually started, the tile started popping out yet. The sinks, of course, and stuff, we have some code issues with some of them, and some delaminating of the plastic laminate that was used on them, the Formica. The mirrors are chipping, and basically a state of disrepair. So what we'd like to try to do is get approval for this project, and we'd also like our Blue John 1, the RFP. This is also part of the expanded programs that we were talked about in length, and but we would like to get this approved and also approve the Blue John not to exceed of $299,000 because they've done some other work in the city as well to good results.
Okay, thank you.
Questions?
Council, floor is open for discussion. Councilmember Scagliola.
Yeah, I just wonder if we learned any lessons from renovating Fire Station number 2 that we can apply to this job. Did that work well?
Yes, it is. We will use a comprehensive approach in Fire Station 2 when we remodeled it. We found some stuff along the way. We're using that experience with this as well to make sure that we do a better job of waterproofing and such as that. We also, with the Y, when we remodeled the Y, we brought the Y showers up to the same standard we're using now. This whole complex was built at basically the same time. all three buildings at the same time with the same contractor. That's why we feel the need to go through and do all three of them, because we think it's just a matter of time before all of them start failing. That makes sense. We're noticing a trend here, if you will.
Yeah, good planning. That's all I have, sir.
Okay. Council, any other questions? No other questions? Is there a motion to approve resolution number 20R51?
So move.
Second.
Okay. That was the motion made by Councilman Scagliola. The second came from Councilmember Hayward. Okay. Council, any other comments or questions? If not, let's call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
6 ayes, no objection, motion passes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Oh, moving right along. We have workshop. Item number 7, ordinance number 20H18. An ordinance by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, to supersede ordinance number 20H15, extending a declaration of local disaster, restricting certain activities, establishing penalties for violations, providing an effective date, and declaring an emergency. This is our first and final reading. Council, just a comment on this one. The ordinance is a mirror image reflection of what the governor has in place for the state of Texas, with a new expiration date of June 23rd, 2020, 11:59 p.m. There is no presentation provided. However, Chief Long is available to answer any questions you may have. Council, any questions? Yes, Councilmember Scott.
I looked everywhere and I could not find, when does the Texas emergency declaration terminate right now?
Right now is extended out to June the 12th.
June 12th?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Council, any other questions? No questions? Is there a motion to approve ordinance? Yes,
I do-
Councilmember Scott.
I have a comment.
Yes, by all means.
This comes in on the heels of the last meeting when I was calling to rescind this emergency order. I've done a lot of research on it, and I think there's a lot of credence with this to use, and what a lot of cities in Texas are using this in order to get the reimbursements from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and to be able to submit those more easily and more quickly. And in terms of issuing orders, the government has pretty much taken away that authority, so now it's a matter of being able to do the purchasing with the FEMA reimbursement. I want to say that on the record, because last time I had several constituents not wanting to be in the emergency thing, but to be able to be reimbursed, I think that would be very good. I do think that we are moving from emergency to a state of recovery, just looking at the statistics and where we are and whatnot. And then I did notice on the emergency declaration that should Governor Abbott, and this is my question, because if this is affirmative, if Governor Abbott were to lift the statewide disaster declaration and orders in place prior to the date and expiration of ours, this ordinance shall no longer be subject to enforcement by the city, and it should be, shall be repealed by the city council at the first legally posted meeting date thereafter. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Council, any other questions? Once again, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 20H18?
Mayor, I make a motion to approve ordinance 20H18.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilmember Dalla, second by Councilmember Scagliola. Any other comments? No other comments? We call for the vote.
Aye.
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 We have 6 ayes, no objection, motion passes. We'll continue with item number 8, an update on the street preservation and maintenance rehabilitation efforts. Okay, Mr. Novak.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Some of this you heard the other day at the budget workshop, so I'll try to go through some of it fairly quickly. We do have a project that is actually 100% complete. We have lots of other projects that are in process. Schertz Parkway, we are still working on, but the overlay, the Schertz Parkway overlay section from Live Oak South to about the railroad tracks, that is expected to get underway within the next 2 weeks. And that'll be a fairly fast-moving project, so we'll be able to get that one done. We have 3 projects that are currently in design. Another segment of Cherry Tree to rehabilitate it, much like we're doing in the North Cliff area. That's almost ready to take action on, either to change order onto an existing contract or go out for bid. And the other 2 are in process. And we're close to being able to start advertising our RFQ for the PCI data update. We expect that to happen next month. Schertz Parkway reconstruction, got a lot of concrete pavement down, and we've got some curbs down. The next pour is expected to occur this Thursday to finish out the intersection of Woodland Oaks. We're going to kind of shift gears a little bit. We do have some resurfacing going on, chip seal, and we have received some feedback from some residents with some concerns about that product. The main concern is the finished product is not as smooth as brand new pavement, like a brand new street, and that's kind of an expectation that a lot of residents have. The chip seal is inherently a little rougher than new asphalt, even though it does smooth out a little over time. It will never be as smooth as brand new pavement. So we have other things that we're working on, such as the Randolph reconstruction, where the finished product, we start out, we dig everything out, all the curb, gutter, sidewalks, everything, all the way down to subgrade, and then we rebuild everything to brand new. So the finished surface of that street is like a brand new street, brand new pavement. So it's smoother than a chip seal would be. But it's not necessarily glass smooth or hard table surface smooth. If you look at new asphalt, we're using a little bit coarser aggregate in the asphalt mix, and there's a reason for that, because it's more stable, it's less resistant to rutting. If we used a finer grade asphalt mix, you could get something that's more glass smooth or closer to glass smooth, but the downside to that is it's more susceptible to rutting, which then means we got to do something else with the street sooner rather than later. North Cliff is not quite a full reconstruction. It's kind of in between a mill and overlay and a full reconstruction, in that we are doing some sidewalk replacement, we are doing some curb and gutter replacement, we're not replacing everything. And we're reusing as much of the existing street section as we can there. So the first picture shows we're taking off that existing asphalt. The next picture shows a pulverizer grinder machine that takes the remaining material that's there. We add Portland cement to it, blend it up, chew it up, blend it all together, and recompact it. So we've got a much stronger, stable foundation. And then we put a new layer of asphalt on top of that. A conventional mill and overlay does basically kind of the same thing, only it's not as invasive. You mill off, so you use the same machine in the upper left corner. You mill off a portion of the existing asphalt surface, not all of it, and then you replace what you milled off with a new layer of asphalt. The end result is kind of the same. You have a relatively smooth surface, but if you look closely at it, you still can see aggregates, you still have little voids in the surface. It's not like tabletop smooth like this. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the chip seal. So as I've mentioned before, there's kind of the first step of the process is you have to go do prep work on the streets, crack seal, do base repairs, much like the 2 repairs that are shown on the left-hand side. Then the application of the actual chip seal itself starts by shooting a layer of oil onto the surface of the street with a distributor. And after the oil breaks, then you spread chips, and I have a sample of chips. If you want me to pass them around, you can take a look at them. I do have props this time. Onto that fresh oil. Once the chips are on the oil, you can actually start driving on the street again. It's that fast of an operation. They use rubber-tired rollers. They go back and forth and kind of knead everything together, work those chips down into that surface. It's kind of like taking a bunch of jigsaw pieces and putting down and then trying to mash them all together by rolling back and forth across them. When we're done, this is how the surface looks. It looks very rough. There's loose rock on top of it. The reason for that is it's a necessary evil of the chip seal process, is you need to protect that fresh layer of oil. You want to have a little extra rock on there so you don't start tracking that oil, because then it grabs more rocks and it peels up the stuff you're trying to keep down on the surface of the street. So this is how it looks right after it's applied. And we open the streets right back up to traffic, so we're disrupting traffic as little as possible with this process. So when folks start driving on it, this is where we start getting the first complaints, is, hey, we had a paved street. What in the world did you do, John? Now I've got a gravel road. And it's because of that excess loose chips on the surface. Now the third step of the process is the cleanup. So you go in and you sweep off the excess chips. So that's a picture of a fresh surface right after it's been swept. It still is a little rough, but you don't have the loose material on top. It's not as smooth as brand new street or brand new pavement, but it's much, much smoother than the picture on the left. So this is a picture of a 2-year-old chip seal. You can see it looks a little smoother than that previous picture. It's because traffic has driven on it. It starts to smooth it down a little bit. This is actually from Live Oak, the chip seal area that we did about 2 years ago. This is another picture of a very old chip seal. I don't know how old this is. This came out of Aviation Heights, and I'm not sure when that chip seal was put down. But the remnants of what we're looking at, also they used a larger aggregate than what we're using, which meant that when it was first applied and first swept, it would be even rougher than what our pictures show. So you may ask, well, is there anything else we can do to get a smoother surface? You could do what's called a slurry seal. This is also about 2 years old here in the city. That was done about the same time as the Live Oak chip seal. You can see that the resulting surface of that is basically as smooth as the underlying pavement. It adds just a thin layer. It's applied down on a real thin layer of oil with fine sand mixed in all in one operation. You have to spray that. You have to let it cure and set up before you can open it up to traffic. And depending upon which product you use, that can be a matter of half hour to hour up to 24 hours. So as for example, you have the slurry seal on the left, and this is a freshly swept, brand new chip seal surface. You can see the difference in the texture. Again, here's the same picture of the slurry seal, and this is how it compares with that 2-year-old chip seal. They're a little bit closer, but the slurry seal is still a little smoother. So now you may ask, why did we pick chip seal? These other methods, like a mill and overlay or a slurry seal, do provide a smoother surface, but they do so at a cost. Our chip seal contract was roughly $690,000. Based on our bid prices, because we did bid slurry seal as an alternate, the lowest unit price we received for slurry seal would have more than doubled the cost. It would have increased it to almost 1.6 million. Mill and overlay is much more expensive. There's a lot more work involved, and that is roughly 5 times the cost of a chip seal. So while these other options are available to us, it would significantly reduce the amount of work we could do within the available budget we have. So it would take us longer to get through our list of streets than if we use the chip seal. I'd be happy to answer any questions. If you'd like to see a sample of the chips, I got my cup of chips here.
Thank you, Mr. Thornwhite. Council, floor is open for discussion. Councilmember Dollar.
Did you go back to the slide with Randolph Boulevard?
Sure.
It's right there on the picture on the right above the community service opportunity area there.
Yes.
It looks like you've got some raveling going on there.
That is actually the finished surface of the pavement where I was talking about, where you have the little bit coarser aggregate that kind of shows up sometimes. You have a little bit of voids in the surface. It's actually not sitting in the surface. That's the finished surface of the new pavement. brand new pavement, it is smooth, but it's not smooth like this. You do have those voids, and that's because of the type of asphalt that we're using, and we're using it so we can avoid rutting issues.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Scagliola.
Hey, John, I want to thank you so very much. I can only imagine how much effort is required to orchestrate all of the activities that are going on in the city. You're doing an exceptional job. You really are, so thank you. I was over to Castle Hill the other day, just going through the neighborhood, and I says, gee, wonder what's going on here. I loved it. It looked great. When I was coming around the corner, though, my wife noticed. She says, when they were sweeping, it looks like there were cars in the way, and they kind of swept around the cars. And okay, so after listening to your presentation, I understand that's not such a big deal because the stuff is good to drive on. It's just that some of the aggregate isn't going to get swept away. On the other hand, it looked like, well, are they going to come back and finish it? But so what's your strategy really for keeping the cars off the streets for as long as required to actually complete the job?
We do multiple sweepings. The contractor does do an initial sweeping after it's taken an initial set that sometimes uncovers spots in a chip seal that we have to touch up. So they go back and touch those up. They come back and do 2 more sweepings to get as much of that excess off as we can. And during that time, cars tend to move around so we can get some of those spots that we may not have been able to get the first time. Now, the other thing that will happen is after our contractor is done, then those streets will be on our regular street sweeping schedule that Public Works does. So because over time, best way I can describe it is chip seal for about the first year is kind of a living organism. Traffic is still kind of kneading stuff around a little bit. You still get a few rocks that come loose every now and then, so you want to sweep those up. And so those will be captured with the ongoing sweeping efforts that we normally do on our streets.
Do you ever get into situations where cars won't move or haven't moved? And what do you do in a situation like that?
It's very interesting you should bring that up. We had that very situation up in North Cliff last week where the contractor was trying to do the cement stabilization. They tried talking to the property owner, the car owner. He refused to move, and unfortunately we had to call dispatch and have an officer come encourage him to move his vehicle.
Wow, that's unfortunate, but as long as you have a strategy to take care of it. Once again, you're doing a great job. Keep it up, man.
Thank you very much for your kind words.
Councilmember Davis.
You bring up the slide with the cost factors for the slurry seal and chip seal? Oh, it's about 2.5 times more to do a slurry seal versus a chip seal. What's the life expectancy if we take the average street? I know it varies depending on the condition of the road and everything else, but if we take the average section of road and do a chip seal, how much more life do we get out of that versus a slurry seal?
Theoretically, about the same life. I have had slurry seals last, in the 8 to 10 year range over the course of my career. It really depends on the traffic. Because the layer is much thinner, the traffic can wear through it much faster than a conventional chip seal if there's more traffic on the street. So average-wise, industry standard is a slurry seal can last you about 8 years, 8 to 9 years. Chip seal is in that 8 to 10 year range.
So we get more bang for our buck by doing the chip seal?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
Councilmember Scott.
So does it get smoother by the second year with the traffic after it all settles down? You said it was like a living organism. Does it kind of get more polished, or?
Yes, it does. And as it continues to wear, the aggregate will get more polished. It'll get more smooth, but it still will never really be as smooth as brand new, fresh asphalt like a brand new street. It's one of the trade-offs from the type of material, in other climates. That was actually an attractive feature of it because you always had a little bit more attractive surface on your streets, particularly in northern climates where you had to worry more about ice than we do have to down here. But the chip seal, basically what you're doing is you're putting a new wearing layer on the surface of the road. You're rejuvenating the pavement underneath to a certain extent, much like you would with the slurry seal. But you're providing a new wear surface. So the goal with pavement preservation is you let traffic drive on that till they about wear that completely out. Then you come back and you do it again. And if you can keep doing that, then your streets are in good condition and you can maintain them that way virtually indefinitely.
Okay, I do have one question for you. I drove around the 3 neighborhoods that we just did chip sealed. And my question is, I noticed that they accelerated quickly and some of that just, you see the indents on the chip sealed. Is that damage the life of the road, the conditions of the road?
To a certain extent, yes. And unfortunately, the biggest culprit of that happens to be our garbage trucks. But yes, particularly when it's first placed down, even after that first sweeping, before it really locks in 100%, if somebody does go through there cranking the wheels or tries to do a donut or something in the street, it will scar that surface. And the contractor has gone back and touched some of those up, the worst spots. You're going to maybe see some little blemishes here and there in some of that because of that, but it's not affecting really the overall life expectancy too terribly much. But when they really chew through it, then yes, it does need to get touched up.
All right, thank you. Council, any other questions? Oh, one more. Councilmember Scott?
Thank you, Mayor. Last year, I was at the teacher thing and symposium, and they were talking about jobs for the future. And sometimes technology that you hear, it takes really long to catch up on the streets. They were super excited about self-healing asphalt. Have you heard of that?
Yes, I've heard of it, and I'm watching it. I'm waiting to see the results actually proven in the real world. Laboratory testing is very promising. Unfortunately, sometimes some of that stuff that sounds really good and looks really good at first, when you get it out in the real world, it doesn't quite hold up as well. As an example, there was a concept of using recycled tires, grinding up the rubber and using that with the oil. The thought would be we'd have a little bit more flexible, stronger oil when it was all cured, and the chip seal would last longer because it costs more, the oil costs more. Some of that has been put down in some cities in this region, but unfortunately they found it doesn't last any longer than a regular chip seal. So we're back to, well, okay, why spend the extra money on that oil if we don't get a benefit out of it?
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Council? Any other questions? No? Thank you, Mr. Novak. We'll proceed with roll call confirmation. Our City Secretary, Brenda Dennis, will provide roll call confirmation for consent agenda items 1 through 4 and discussion items 5 through 7. Ms. Brenda?
Yes, Mayor. Consent agenda items 1 through 4. A motion was made by Councilmember Dalla, seconded by Councilmember Scagliola. Mayor Pro Tem Davis, Councilmember Scott, Dalla, Scagliola, Hayward, and Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed. Item number 5, resolution number 20R49. A motion was made by Councilmember Hayward, seconded by Councilmember Scott. Mayor Pro Tem Davis, Councilmember Scott, Dalla, Scagliola, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed. Item number 6, resolution number 20R51. A motion was made by Councilmember Scagliola, seconded by Councilmember Hayward. Mayor Pro Tem Davis, Councilmember Scott, Dalla, Scagliola, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed. Item number 7, ordinance number 20H18 on first and final reading, declaring an emergency. A motion was made by Councilmember Dalla, seconded by Councilmember Scagliola. Mayor Pro Tem Davis, Councilmember Scott, Dalla, Scagliola, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed.
Thank you, Ms. Dennis. We have a closed session today. Item number 9, City Council will recess in closed session as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act. City Council will adjourn into a closed session under Section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code regarding deliberation and consideration for purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property related to the project with Schertz Local Government Corporation, SSLGC. Due to the social distancing rules, we are requesting the public please step outside outside the building while we discuss this matter. We will call you all back when council's back in session. The time is now 6:36. We will reconvene after our discussion.
Got storms coming this way? Someone just said they got hit by half-inch size hail heading east into Schertz near Highway 10.
8.
And an hour ago, half-inch hail. And then someone says we're currently dealing with a couple of, this is the National Weather Service out of Austin, San Antonio. Currently dealing with a couple of severe storms across the region, yada, yada, yada.
Boy, the other night, it was...
I don't mind the lightning and I don't mind the rain. But I worry about the hail because the whole roof of my vehicle's glass.
The time is now 6:59. We reconvene from our regular session after our discussion and deliberation regarding agenda item number 9 in regards to the SSLGC-related project. And I'm making a motion from the chair here. We have a motion to approve the purchase, exchange, lease, or real value of real property related to the SSLGC project. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
We have a lot of seconds here. Okay, we motion from the chair, second from Councilmember Scott. Okay, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. Councilmember Scott?
Aye.
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 Okay, we have 6 ayes, no objection, motion passes. Thank you. We'll continue with the roll call confirmation. Our city secretary, Ms. Brenda Dennis, will provide the roll call confirmation for item number 9.
Motion was made by the chair, seconded by Councilmember Scott, to approve the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property related to the project with the Schertz Local Government Corporation, SSLGC. Mayor Pro Tem Davis, Councilmember Scott, Dalla, Scagliola, Hayward, Brown voted yes. No one voted no. Motion passed.
Thank you, Ms. Dennis. Okay, we'll continue with requests and announcements. Requests and announcements by our city manager, Dr. Brown. Okay. Council, is there any items you'd like to place on future agenda items? None? Okay. Announcements by council members. Councilmember Davis?
Nothing, sir.
Councilmember Scott?
Not at this time, but may I break protocol to ask one question, Mayor?
And that question is?
I was remiss when Officer Long, the results from the autumn winds. Can I ask that?
No, it's not on the
I
agenda.
beg your pardon. No, nothing at this time.
Okay. Councilmember Larson's not here. Councilmember Dalla?
Just mentioned that last week we did my first budget retreat as a council member. It was very informative and very thought-provoking and some really good discussions. And then also on Monday participated in the Memorial Day Remembrance Ceremony over at the Knights of Columbus Hall. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Scagliola?
Ditto that. Nothing else, sir.
Councilmember Hayward?
I concur with my Councilman Dollar. Same things.
Okay. Councilmember Brown?
And the mayor gave a fine speech on Memorial Day. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'd just like to say thanks to our city staff for putting the budget retreat, very informative. It's great to have our staff give us a presentation of the information we need. I also like to thank the VFW for hosting the Memorial Day ceremony yesterday. The time is now 7:03. We stand adjourned.